In the green Lord's Hills of Kigezi, where morning mist settles gentle over terraced slopes and church bells echo across distant valleys, the story of Kabale Diocese began not with buildings or grand ceremonies, but with a quiet transition in church history. When the Diocese of Kabale was created in 1966, it marked a decisive moment for the Catholic Church in southwestern Uganda. What had once been part of the larger Diocese of Mbarara now became a new local church, entrusted with its own pastoral identity and mission. Yet, as with every new beginning, the question was not only about structure on paper. It was about leadership, organization, and direction. That responsibility was given to Bishop Gavasias Nkalanga, a Tanzanian prelate whose life had already been shaped by deep theological formation, missionary experience, and participation in the Second Vatican Council. Born in 1919 in Luti, Tanganyika, ordained a priest in 1950, and consecrated a bishop in 1961 by Pope John XIII, Bishop Nkalanga belonged to a generation of African church leaders who carried the transition from missionary-led structures to local church leadership. By the time he arrived in Kabale in 1966, as the first apostolic administrator, the Catholic faith in Kigezi was already deeply rooted through missionary work. Institutions such as St. Paul's Secondary School Mutorere, established in 1956, had already become important centers of Catholic education and formation long before the diocese was created. In 1963, St. Peter's Secondary School Nyarushanje had also emerged as another strong Catholic-founded institution, serving communities in Rujumbura and contributing to the early intellectual and spiritual formation of the region. But while these institutions existed, they were not yet bound together under a unified diocesan system. That was the task awaiting Nkalanga. His arrival marked the beginning of organization rather than construction. He didn't come to replace what existed, but to bring coherence to it. Across the scattered parishes of Kigezi, he worked quietly to establish a sense of unity among clergy, catechists, and religious communities. He introduced coordination where there had been fragmentation and encouraged collaboration where there had been separation. The young diocese began to take shape not through dramatic expansion, but through careful structuring of its internal life. It was during this formative period that Catholic education in the diocese took a clear diocesan identity. In 1967, St. Mary's College Rushoroza was established as the first senior secondary school under the Diocese of Kabale, marking a significant step in the church's commitment to formal education under its own diocesan leadership. This was followed in 1969 by Immaculate Heart Girls' School Nyakibale, founded under the guidance of religious sisters, strengthening the church's role in educating young women and expanding opportunities for academic and moral formation. Alongside these developments, priestly formation also began to take more structured shape through St. Paul's Seminary Rushoroza, which served as a minor seminary for the training and nurturing of future priests. Here young men were introduced to a life of discipline, prayer, and academic preparation, forming the foundation of the diocese's future clergy. Through these institutions, some inherited from earlier missionary activity and others developed under the new diocesan structure, Bishop Nkalanga's role was not that of a founder of all things, but of an unifier and organizer. He helped transform a collection of Catholic institutions and mission stations into a functioning diocesan system with a direction and purpose. His leadership in Kabale lasted only 3 years, from 1966 to 1969, but those years proved decisive. When he left to become Bishop of Bukoba in Tanzania, the Diocese of Kabale was no longer an ununified mission territory. It had begun to function as a structured local church, ready for continuity under its first residential bishop, Barnabas Halimimana. Nkalanga's later life took a different but equally remarkable direction. After serving as Bishop of Bukoba and President of the Tanzanian Episcopal Conference, he resigned in 1973 and entered Hanga Abbey, a Benedictine monastery in Tanzania. There he embraced monastic life under the name Brother Placidus, living in prayer and simplicity for more than 4 decades. He died in 2015 at the age of 96 and was laid to rest at the monastery he had called home for much of his later life. Looking back from the 60-year journey of Kabale Diocese, his legacy is not measured in the number of institutions built in his name, but in the foundations he helped establish. He arrived at a moment of transition and provided structure where there was potential, unity where there was fragmentation, and direction where there was uncertainty. And in that quiet but decisive contribution, Bishop Gavasias Nkalanga remains part of the unseen architecture of Kabale Diocese, a shepherd who didn't define his mission by permanence, but by preparation, leaving behind a church ready to grow long after his footsteps had moved on.